Hey mamas, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Mommy Moments with Pamela. I'm Pamela Peckerman and I'm joined by the fantastic Randi Zinn, founder of Beyond Mom. But for those of you who are new to the show, I'm Pamela Peckerman. I'm a mom lifestyle expert and TV host, and I am a real life mom to 2 toddlers, 4.5-year-old daughter and a 3.5-year-old son. And the premise for this show is to showcase the kaleidoscope of motherhood. Stay-at-home mom, work-from-home mom, corporate mom, or friend-for mom, you name it. The best thing that I think we can do for our mom tribe community is to share our stories and not shame each other. So hashtag share, don't shame. And now I would love for Randi to share her story. And you are the founder of BeyondMom.com, the Beyond Mom podcasts. You are now the author, which, by the way, for anybody out there who watches and has ever tried to put out a book, this is no small feat. She's the author of Going Beyond Mom, which just came out in September. So for those who are not familiar, what is a Beyond Mom and what is the brand Beyond Mom?
Yes, well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm really honored to be part of your important discussion because it is about joining together and telling each other stories and sharing our successes and our pitfalls and
our highs,
and
our
our
lows.
highs and our lows and supporting each other. So I love what you're doing. So what is a Beyond Mom? It is a concept I coined, but I am not the only one living. To me, going beyond mom, being a beyond mom, is simply about living a life that is mindful, that is self-aware as you're navigating the motherhood experience. And folded into that is fully owning that yourself, the mother is not the self. The mother is a role, and that this
just kind of like one part.
It's one part. Of course, it's a giant part, but that the self, the woman who is inside of the mom, is an ever-evolving person that you're continually getting to know and you're continually cultivating. Why is this an important concept, right?
Well, I mean, by the way, heart or comment or tag if you get what she's saying about this idea that you are a mom and that is part of your, I ams, right? Mm-hmm. But that there's so much more, right?
Yes.
And I think it's great that you talk about that so much in Beyond Mom and in all of your interviews as well. Is that there's those are other parts that go beyond mom, right? It's so there. I want to actually, so by the way, guys, I mean, I was literally reading this over the weekend and I'm not completely through, but I have to read something right here. So in her tributes, you say, I'm going to read the whole thing, but it's the last part that I love. For my parents who saw my gifts long before I did, for my husband who urged me to step into those gifts, this is what I love, and for my children, when you were born, so too was the woman I was meant to become. And so
it's so nice to hear someone else read it. It makes me a little emotional.
Oh my God. So I mean, I got emotional because that idea of you sort of, it almost feels like you found your purpose and your passion during your pregnancy and while you became a mother. So I want you to to share about that, and please comment and like if you're hearing something that connects with you, because I feel like so many of us, even before we become moms, there's a fear of this change and of getting lost, which happened to me. But so tell me about how that almost really didn't happen for you. It was like the reverse.
Well, sure. Let's back up and talk about the fact that somehow I assumed that when I had my son now 6 years ago, that suddenly I was going to focus entirely on him and that was going to be enough. And something in me just gave into that concept. And I would say that was through my pregnancy. And it's not to say that I didn't have dreams of my own, but I think this is more of a deeper belief system or something that our culture tells us subtly or not subtly. And then what happened was that all of these things that I was doing before he was born, they kind of resurfaced as things I still wanted to touch, but their purpose shifted. And I started meeting all of these women, doing the early mommyhood things, going to the park and going to classes and just meeting new women through the motherhood space. Right. And I started meeting all of these women that were totally redefining the way that they were connecting with their personal self, their professional self. So many women on the repeat that were leaving financial positions or legal careers and starting really interesting business wellness ideas
now
as mothers. You know, many of the women that I connected with were doing things because they really felt called to action. There was something that they felt purposeful about. And they wanted to fold in a lifestyle around flexibility, inclusiveness of their motherhood space and their children specifically. And I was like, wait. So all of these women are doing this. Why are we not hanging out together? Why are we not helping one another?
Like getting that, because I think, you actually said something that's on my blog right now about what's part of your self-care ritual. And you said that part of your self-care ritual is actually hanging out with your friends, many of whom I think are moms, if not all of them at this point. And I think we do, right? We feed off of each other. Like I see you and my sister's here, and I get sort of that energy. We'll have a lunch and I'll feel like either I'm not alone, right? And I think that's great with all of the events that you do as well. It's that idea of creating that community of connecting together, which so many moms, by the way, through this show who are older, who said, wow, I wish that Beyond Mom existed 20, 30 years.
I hear that all the time.
Do you get that
all the time? Yeah. I mean, we are communal beings. Women in particular, I mean, you go back to when it was more of a matrilineal society hundreds of thousands of years ago. Women used to go into caves when they were menstruating and like hang out together. But
that is something potentially I wouldn't mind bringing back. Just put me in a cave for a little bit and then call me out later.
It sounds very like weird in our culture, but there's so much more behind it, which is that we come together in our rhythms and what we need of one another, and we need to talk, we need to probably cry together, we need to laugh together, we need to just sort of see each other in our vulnerability and say, it's all good, I'm right here with you. So we're not necessarily menstruating in a cave together,
but not a bad idea also. And if you would join me in the cave during those time frames, I would go there with you. And honestly, all I would need is just some
chocolate.
I don't even need chocolate. I need some green
cheese?
tea.
Oh.
Green tea. I know, this is how I just want some green tea. I want some honey.
Okay.
And Gigi crackers.
You're a very healthy menstruating person. I'm like, give me some Mexican food, give me some cheese.
I rarely, so totally off topic, but it's fine. This is the sharing part, right?
Sharing stuff.
I rarely have very difficult, painful ones. But I just want to be in a cave so that I'm like away from everybody and just, it's like a vacation.
Yeah, exactly.
I know everybody's like, menstruation is like vacation, but to each
like,
her
it's
own.
an escape.
Yeah.
But actually, so this actually goes right into the Beyond Mom
gathering. She's so good. I love it. I like coming back to this.
It does, because it's basically the recognition of what we share, of the unity, and what I really, really was passionate about creating. And some of that is content driven. It's online. It's my podcast conversations. It's a book. It's places where these discussions can happen and can be free flowing, and through events and retreats that I hold, it's that women can come and be together, and it's not always just through talking, which I love clearly, but it's also through just being, and it's through experiences that are yogic or meditative or quiet, where we can just be where we are and receive something. So what I almost envision myself doing is putting this like protective space around this time for women and saying, you are so many things, and let's cultivate that. So the perspective that really kind of goes into this book is, let's cultivate this foundation. Let's cultivate all that you are as a woman first, and then build the vision you have.
She has another good quote in here. You call it the cultivation of self in motherhood. And a lot of that I feel like does have to do with these self-care. And I use the word self-care, but I know it was a buzzword this year, so I don't want anybody to get off put. But just that idea of whatever is that you need to get through the day. So for me, I need, whether it's before I take my kids, I wake up early, before they wake up, or after I take them to daycare and I come back home, before I work, I need like 5 minutes of tea time. Mm-hmm. I just need quiet. If you follow me on Instagram, @Pamela Peckerman, tea time is my everything. I can forego almost everything else, but that's sort of for me. And what are some, so you interview a lot of women as well. Yeah. What are some tips that you feel like a lot of maybe even entrepreneurs have in common? Something that they all do that really takes their themselves and also their entrepreneurial spirit to the next level. Because I know, by the way, a lot of you out there are, trying to figure out their next chapter. So what are some things they can do?
So this is a great question, and I have interviewed a lot of women, and there's definitely common threads. Really, I've learned my methodology from the women I talk to. So I do have the yoga instructor background. I've always been very fascinated by this idea that this sort of a yogic philosophy thing, where I'm going to make it really simple. Every person has different layers that make up the person, and that's physical layer, it's mental layer, it's emotional layer, it's spirit layer, it's all these things. And what the philosophy says is that if one of these is not intact, the whole thing is not intact. Now, what happens, of course, as we know in motherhood, is that, whoa, like we don't really get to build up all these layers. I say, okay, but we have to, especially if we're going out and wanting to be productive, whatever that means. So to answer your question, one might assume that the really busy, productive entrepreneurial moms, whether they're, more out in the corporate space or this is actually true, whether in the corporate space or whether they're working for themselves type entrepreneurs, you would think that these women are momming and working and probably have no other time for anything else, right? Opposite. These women have figured out how to use time in a way that's so thoughtful that maybe it's not every day, but they're touching these different layers that I'm talking about of their life on enough repeat, whether it's weekly or monthly, that they're pretty intact. So some of the busiest women that I know who are running businesses, have multiple children, like some 3 or more, travel the world, have girl trips, have nonprofits they run, actually do all of these things wholeheartedly. And it's not what you would think. It's not that they're burnt out because they're doing it. It's that they make time for these parts of their lives, and their output is so good because they're fueled by these things. So it's almost like the reverse of how you would see it.
So I'm sure that a lot of viewers are who are watching, and I'll actually put myself in this category as well, because when I was not in the right mindset, I would hear these stories. Like I would go to events or panels or watch somebody else's show and I would feel overwhelmed because I would think to myself, I don't understand what does that mean? She went to, the kids went to bed at 8:00 and then she would write her book or work on her project until midnight. And, but when I'm in my best self, which like knock on wood, it's like where I feel right now, that you can handle it. And I also feel like you're putting into, you call it like layers, I say buckets, right? I'm not necessarily putting into every bucket at every time, but collectively at the end of the day or at the end of the week, I'm like, okay, did I get in my movement some fitness? Did I get in, the eating well? Did I spend time with my kids?
Time with a girlfriend?
Exactly.
To fuel my friend's needs.
You know what? That's something that I really want to do more of. Great. And when I read your quote yesterday, I just was reminded again of how valuable it is. I mean, like really to spend time with your girls.
I need it. But here's what I want to say. I totally get that feeling of overwhelm. It's like you see these women who are doing everything and you're like, ugh, like how do I even begin? Like I feel like I'm falling apart or there's no way I could do that. But what's really important, and I hope I've guided people through the steps in this book, is obviously, maybe not obviously, you have to start small, and you simply must abandon the idea that any of this can be done on your own or alone. I'm very open about the fact that I have a husband who shares my values about this.
So important.
Remember I wrote in the thing too, my husband, I get the pass for Saturday night. Yes. What if we go on a date, we do. If we don't, it's like, are you going out tonight, babe?
Sorry, so she's referring to the fact that Saturday she, one of her sort of golden essentials is that she likes to go out with, Randi, likes to go out with her girlfriends, and so she has this pact with her husband, I don't know, pact, what do you call it? Agreement, is that that's her date with her girls. So unless they're going out on a date night, that's her pass, and that's her time.
I get first dibs.
What you said to cry, to just be, to laugh, to share,
whatever.
Just whatever, anything.
Whatever. Doesn't matter.
I love that. I actually, one thing that I do, and my sister, we didn't do it last year. Oh, we did a little bit, but we try to do like our retreat, like for 5 days or 7 days, whatever it might be. I know that's only once a year, but that's like my golden.
It's so great.
I'm already thinking like, okay, where are we going to go? And I could care less. It could be Miami. One year we did Switzerland, where my mother laughed hysterically because she's like, so wait, what did you do in Switzerland? I'm like, we walked and we slept. And we went to a few museums, but mostly we walked and we slept. She's like, you went to Switzerland to do that? I'm like, yeah, yes. I just wanted to sit with like some sort of like hot cocoa and, you know, be somewhere. It just happened that it was in Switzerland. But
I get it.
You know, we just needed that time.
Yeah, you do. You really do. Yeah. So, I mean, a partnership is very key. And I also speak a lot about the fact that you can't just expect your partner or somebody else to show up for you and give you that. Somewhere in your belief system, you have to say, oh, I need this, I deserve this. And
just put that on the table.
And speak it from your heart, not like, you better, no, like not that.
No, because that's not going to work. But that's not going to work with anybody, right?
No, it's about, I need this. And this moves into how you start your vision, your business, or whatever that thing is you want to build. You know, everything that goes on in your home space is the ground for creating your leadership self. So how you speak to your husband about the time you need, if you feel like, you know, you've been with your child exclusively and you need some child care to be able to step out
and go to that next level.
Yeah, and well, many women don't even feel that they deserve to have several hours to themselves to go and write ideas. But where do you begin if you don't have that?
No.
So it's a self-ownership.
I agree. And I think one of the biggest things is expressing what's going on inside. Because sometimes we're not even at the point where we fully are connected to what's going on inside of us. So how are we supposed to express it to our partner? But that's your husband. That's the person that came first before the children. And I remember at some point when I was trying to figure myself out and what was the next chapter for me, at some point my husband was just who had to like literally verbally smack me and say, you know, you tell me, we're gonna work it out.
And so and then, you know, there's many mamas out there that don't have the partner, and you know, life has taken a different shift.
Sure.
But I think the larger statement is that it can't be done alone, and you have to harness your community. You know, mom, grandma, babysitter.
You said like somewhere in the book you were even talking about exercise, right? And the idea of you take shifts with your girlfriend, and you know she's going to go to the gym. She's going to go to the gym, and you're going to take care of the kids, and then you're going to take care of my kids, and I'm going to go to the gym. And those simple morsels of goodness, honestly, those little ideas, they sound simple, but have you done them?
Right, exactly.
You know? And motherhood, and I don't want to end on this note, but motherhood can be very lonely if you're not building that tribe and having them support you.
You know, a really big commitment in this book for me was that there were tips and tools in here on every budget. I didn't want to write this book for, you know, women who can afford a nanny. I would never want to assume that's the case. But if you cannot, there are ways to harness your me time and to find space. And I wanted to empower every woman to own herself and to own her right to space, because it's in that space that you find your beyond mom.
I love that. And we need to find that space. So really quick, I want to do a little bit of rapid fire with you. Okay, so how much sleep do you get?
I try for 8 hours. Sometimes it's 6 and 7.
Okay, but you want 8. That's your sort of...
Yeah,
okay, so you get 6. Okay, mornings. What are the mornings like? Hectic? What's going on in the mornings with you?
Something in the middle. It's not bad usually. I got to get my coffee on though. I got to get the coffee button. I try to keep it on a flow. I'm going to admit I do put on a little bit of TV in the morning for the kids because I got to keep it moving.
You know what? I mean, so 6-year-old son, almost 2-year-old daughter. That's okay. That's hashtag share, don't shame. So if you do that too, then comment and like us. And if you don't, that's okay, because she's just sharing her experiences.
I gotta keep it moving, guys.
And the evenings, what are the evenings like? Or are they varied?
They vary. Sometimes there's a movie if it's like everyone's beat. Oftentimes there's dance parties. Big fan of the evening dance party.
We love it.
Because we burn off some energy. We have some laughter and fun. I think it's a good way to like ease toward bath. And then once the kids go down, I'm off and on working, but not too late because I lose my productivity at that point.
My brain turns off. I get so mad at myself because again, I will hear other women, but now I like saying they can go on and on. But now I realize that everybody has their productivity, and I'm super good in the morning. Oh, and by the way, I'm officially announcing that finally I am committing to getting permanent help. Like I just, you know what I mean? Like my sister's like, she's like, yes, and I'm telling you this for a while because it's, you know, you get to a point where you realize you can't live your life. And then what's the point of continuing to work if I'm suffering? So I want to be able to like really be there with the kids and like study with them.
In the moment.
Yes, I'm really really very important. As I see the finger rolling over there with my sister telling me that we've been talking too much. Mindfulness. Yeah. So I have been on a big mindfulness journey over the last year to two, and I know that's a big part of your life, but also your brand. So for those who don't know, sort of how do you be a mindful mom? What is that like? What does that bring into your world?
I'll give you an example of what it feels like to not be mindful, and I'm sure, like, let's do the likes and the
the likes in the comments if you do this.
Or if you feel like you live this way a lot.
Okay, and I'll just raise my hands.
Okay, so to me, a non-mindful moment is when you're like doing something on the floor with your kid or whatever, and your mind is somewhere over there. And then you get up and you start doing something else over here, and you're actually in like 3 or 4 places at one time. It's a very disjointed space where you're not actually aware of the moment. I realize that especially if you're a productive mom, look, phones, technology don't help this issue. So mindfulness is the opposite of that. It's actually being present in the moment that you're in. So this is not overly complicated, but it is something that you need some tools to get there. And it just happens moment by moment. You can use simple things like breathing, of course. There's different ways to kind of like get the feet on the ground.
I don't know if I can still do this. The rheumatologist at the hospital for special surgery thinks otherwise.
But you don't even have to do that. I like when my kids like run to me with those big hugs. Like it's that I'm right here, right now. Like it can be an instant.
Like really being there.
Yeah, being there.
Yeah. So I love what you're doing with Beyond Mom. I definitely recommend that everybody check out the book. I really think that there's something there for everybody to tap into your inner entrepreneurship, to figure out your next space, because I think a lot of us as new moms, or even moms with like 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, even my sister's a 13-year-old, that just keeps happening. Exactly. Yeah. Check out PamelaPeckerman.com. We have tips from Randi and other momtrepreneurs on how they create self-care rituals. And that's it. Tune in next Wednesday for another guest on Mommy Moments with Pamela. Bye.
Bye.